John Anthony Kaiser, a young priest from Minnesota, felt a call to serve. He arrived in Kenya in 1960, eager to embrace a new land and its people. Kenya, newly independent, held the promise of a brighter future. Father Kaiser dedicated himself to his parish in TCU. He immersed himself in the local culture, learning the language and customs. He spent 40 years fighting for the rights of the Kenyan people. Known for his humility, he often walked miles to visit remote villages. He lived simply, sharing the joys and hardships of the people he served. His commitment extended beyond religious duties. The political landscape of Kenya was shifting, and he would be thrust into the center of a storm.
Father Kaiser's ministry extended beyond the church walls. He saw the potential in every individual he met. He believed in empowering the community. He encouraged self-reliance, helping locals establish farming cooperatives and small businesses. He knew true development came from within. His efforts went beyond charity. He sought to create lasting change.
His work did not go unnoticed. The people loved him. They called him Father Kaiser. He was one of them. He spoke their language. He understood their struggles. He became a symbol of hope in a country grappling with corruption and inequality. His sermons resonated with the marginalized, offering solace and strength.
He spoke truth to power, denouncing injustice wherever he saw it. Father Kaiser's growing popularity, however, did not sit well with everyone. The Kenyan government, under the autocratic rule of President Daniel Arap Moi, viewed him with suspicion. His defiance would have dire consequences, setting in motion a chain of events that would ultimately lead to his tragic end.
The 1990s in Kenya were a turbulent period. Corruption was rampant. Human rights abuses were commonplace. President Moi's regime tightened its grip on power, silencing dissent with an iron fist. Father Kaiser, witnessing the suffering of his parishioners, could not remain silent. His sermons became increasingly critical of the government. He spoke out against land grabbing, election rigging, and the brutal suppression of opposition voices. He accused high-ranking officials of enriching themselves at the expense of the poor. He became a voice for the voiceless, his words echoing the growing discontent among the Kenyan people.
His criticism did not go unnoticed. Government officials warned him to tone down his rhetoric. They accused him of inciting violence and spreading falsehoods. But Father Kaiser refused to be intimidated. He knew the risks. His defiance made him a target.
Father Kaiser's fight for justice extended beyond the pulpit. He took his activism to the courtroom, filing lawsuits against government officials accused of corruption and human rights abuses. He became a thorn in the side of the Moi regime, using the legal system to challenge their authority. He knew the risks, but his faith fueled his determination. In 1998, he took a bold step. He testified before the Akiwumi Commission, a judicial inquiry formed to investigate ethnic violence that had plagued the country. His testimony was explosive. He accused powerful figures within the government of orchestrating the violence for political gain. He presented evidence of mass killings, rapes, and forced evictions. His testimony sent shockwaves through the nation. He knew he was on the right side of history.
The Akiwumi Commission provided me with a platform to amplify the voices of the silenced. I collected testimonies from survivors of the ethnic clashes, meticulously documenting the horrors they had endured. I met with victims of land grabbing, listening to their stories of displacement and despair.
He became a repository of their pain, their struggles etched in his memory. He shared these harrowing accounts with international human rights organizations. He wrote letters to foreign embassies, pleading for their intervention.
I used every avenue available to expose the truth and seek justice for the victims. Human rights groups rallied behind me, pressuring the Kenyan government.
Father Kaiser became a symbol of resistance, not just in Kenya, but across the world. His courage in the face of danger inspired many. He received death threats, his every move monitored by government agents, but he refused to be silenced.
I knew my fight was bigger than me. It was about the soul of Kenya.
One of Father Kaiser's most relentless battles involved land rights. He witnessed firsthand how powerful individuals within the government, driven by greed, forcefully evicted communities from their ancestral lands. He saw the despair in the eyes of farmers who had tilled the land for generations, now left with nothing.
I vowed to fight for their rights. I organized protests, leading peaceful demonstrations against illegal land seizures. I helped communities file lawsuits, challenging the legality of the evictions. I used my platform to expose the corrupt officials profiting from the land grabbing.
His efforts made him a target of powerful individuals who would stop at nothing to protect their ill-gotten gains. In 1999, Father Kaiser took on a case that would have deadly consequences. He accused a powerful government minister of raping young girls from the Nandi community.
I collected testimonies from the victims, providing them with a voice and a platform to seek justice. The allegations sent shockwaves through the country.
As Father Kaiser continued his fight for justice, the threats against his life intensified. He received anonymous phone calls warning him to stop his activism or face the consequences. His car was vandalized. His house was broken into. It was clear that his life was in danger.
My friends and colleagues urged me to flee Kenya. They feared for my safety, knowing the ruthlessness of the regime, but I refused to leave. I believed my place was with my parishioners, standing with them in their struggle for justice. I often said, if I die, I will die for the people of Kenya.
His unwavering courage made him a target. He knew the risks, and he accepted them. He continued his work, documenting human rights abuses, challenging corrupt officials, and empowering communities to stand up for their rights. On the morning of August 24, 2000, Father Kaiser's lifeless body was found by the roadside near Naivasha town, Kenya. He had a single gunshot wound to the head.
His body, discovered by a passerby, lay sprawled on the dusty ground, his face serene in death. The news of his demise sent shockwaves through Kenya and the international community.
The circumstances surrounding his death were shrouded in mystery. His car was found abandoned miles away, its keys still in the ignition. His belongings, including his wallet and passport, were untouched. The murder weapon was never found.
The investigation, marred by inconsistencies and a lack of transparency, raised more questions than answers. The Kenyan government, eager to control the narrative, quickly declared Father Kaiser's death a suicide. They claimed he was depressed and had taken his own life.
But few believed the official story. The Kenyan police, in their final report, maintained that Father Kaiser had died by suicide. They pointed to a supposed suicide note found near his body.
But the note, analyzed by handwriting experts, was deemed a forgery. The ink, paper, and handwriting did not match Father Kaiser's known samples.
Furthermore, the bullet trajectory and the lack of gunpowder residue on his hand contradicted the suicide theory. Forensic experts argued that the shot that killed Father Kaiser was fired from a distance, making it impossible for him to have pulled the trigger. The evidence pointed towards foul play.
The government's attempts to portray Father Kaiser as mentally unstable were met with skepticism. Those who knew him well described him as a man of deep faith and unwavering resilience.
Despite the lack of closure surrounding his death, Father Kaiser's legacy lived on. He became a symbol of courage and resilience in the face of oppression. His unwavering commitment to justice inspired countless others to stand up for their rights. His death, far from silencing his message, amplified it.
In the aftermath of his death, human rights groups intensified their campaigns for justice in Kenya. The international community, outraged by the circumstances surrounding his murder, pressured the Kenyan government to address its human rights record.
The Catholic Church, recognizing his martyrdom, began the process of canonization. Father Kaiser's legacy extended beyond Kenya. He became an icon for human rights defenders worldwide, his story a reminder of the risks they face and the importance of their work.
His sacrifice served as a call to action, inspiring individuals and organizations to continue the fight for a more just and equitable world. Though his life was tragically cut short, Father John Anthony Kaiser's impact on Kenya and the world remains profound. He is remembered as a martyr for justice, a man who dedicated his life to serving the poor and fighting for the oppressed. His unwavering faith, his courage in the face of danger, and his unwavering commitment to truth continue to inspire.
the mystery surrounding his death may never be fully solved. The Kenyan government, despite years of pressure from human rights groups and the international community, has yet to conduct a credible investigation. The masterminds behind his assassination, if any, have never been brought to justice.
But Father Kaiser's spirit lives on. His story serves as a reminder that the pursuit of justice is often fraught with danger, but the fight must continue. His sacrifice highlights the importance of speaking truth to power, even when it's difficult, even when it's dangerous.
He taught the world that silence in the face of injustice is complicity,